The last location of this battle is the castle of the Demon King. And this time the hero is surprised if the sick bastard sitting on the throne is the Demon King. An unknown terrifying energy emanated from him, and his level was beyond the control of ordinary human eyes. The Lord is surprised that the guy got to this place, being just a pathetic little man, and in honor of this, the demon gives a gift to the intruder, and orders his army to kill the insolent. But the red-haired man gladly accepts this challenge, after which he rushes at the infernal monsters. He calls for a pair of revolvers and begins his furious attack, the monsters literally scattered from the amplified shots. The guy jumps up and uses one of his skills accelerating the explosion. Surprisingly, the Lord of Darkness had a lot more subordinates than the boy expected. At the same time, he decides to change his strategy, and uses the bullet dance skill. After most of the army was defeated, the guy turns his head and suddenly a powerful blow is struck at him, removing his mighty paws from the place of impact. The monster does not observe a bloody puddle, but it's too late to regret the miss. The monster turned out to be too slow. After that a shot rang out in the castle. The ruler of hell continued to turn grey on his rightful throne without blinking an eye. But now that all his troops were defeated, it was his turn to go on stage. He rises from the throne and raises his scythe above him, after which the sky was filled with darkness and darkness. At the moment, the monster jumped off the spot and inflicted its attack. If the guy managed to dodge the remote attack, it turned out to be much faster than he expected. The demon's attack flew past, but its consequences were terrifying, and the guy realizes that if this attack hit the target, he would probably die. The red-haired man was distracted in vain during this deadly duel, and the king of hell instantly shortened the distance and struck the next blow, but the boy managed to block it. From such a terrifying force, he was thrown back a short distance, and before he knew it, the next attack flew into him. The excited boy manages to avoid the attack and begins to return fire from his guns. But for a demonic creature such an attack is hilarious, because he does not even feel it, because his barrier absorbs these shots. According to known information, the hero knew that the dark stone in the forehead of the king of hell is the only vulnerable place, but in order to find out, he will have to break through this barrier with any valuable. The guy continues to shoot revolvers, and then the monster is tired of this useless performance, and he is determined to put the upstart in place and show the difference in their strength. With these words, he creates 4 mystical spheres and directs them at the poor guy. But he is in no hurry to give up and tries his best to dodge the balls chasing him. But soon one of the spheres overtakes him. At the same time, his golden pistols are on the ground. The demon himself warns the poor man, no matter how much he tries, the attacks of such a nonentity will never defeat the ruler of these lands. However, the red-haired man only grins after hearing such an audacious statement, and then taking out another weapon, he decides to check whether nothing from his arsenal can really hurt the Demon King. Taking aim, he makes a killer shot and releases a bullet of moonlight directly into the stone in the forehead of the demon. At the same time, the monster winces and the barrier around him is covered with cracks. In anger, the ruler of hell wishes the youngster death and puts an army of shadows on him, and if everything continues like this, then the red-haired boy will be devoured by gloomy shadows. But once they have captured him, he has no choice but to continue firing at the target and risk his life. But first he should destroy this pierced stone, and concentrating in pitch darkness, he makes a few more shots and hits right on target. The Demon King could not be seen because of the dust that had risen, but his angry words could be clearly heard. Now the monster decided to finally end this bug. And the yellow-eyed hero agrees with this, and uses his most powerful ability, the Verdict of Dawn. The barrier shatters and the cry of the strongest creature is heard. His stone in the forehead was damaged, and because of this, the red-haired boy was freed from the enveloping fog. The furious monster did not believe in what was happening, because how could a pathetic person do something like that? The guy does not waste time explaining, and grabbing his revolvers rushes to the infernal monster. The red-haired man flew up to the forehead of the ruler of hell, and before making the final shot asked the monster if he can imagine how many hours the guy spent in the world of 2-0. But the puzzled monster did not understand the essence of the question, and shortly after that a shot is heard. The guy can't wait to see the finale of this story. The guy lands on the ground, and suddenly a monster's silhouette appears behind him. However, he expected something like this, and despite it, he fires another shot, after which the system notifies the hero that the game is over. The guy notices that playing as a magician shooter in the world of version 2.0 was very entertaining. He did not expect that the magical abilities would turn out so well. Now the world in which he will play versions 3.0, and the character will be a magician. But soon the guy realizes that playing for an ordinary magician will be boring and then decides to create a special magician with the help of a karma system. This is a system in which the player receives fines in exchange for advantages. Many do not use this mechanic because of possible risks. But with penalty characteristics, he will be able to get additional statistics. For example, fines such as insomnia, dependence on mana, chronic migraine, or imminent death will be imposed, but this does not bother the magician if he can get the strongest magician as a substitute, even though his character will be too sick, because it's just a game character. Suddenly he is awakened from sleep. The last thing he remembers is the loading screen at the beginning of the game, and as soon as the loading was completed, jets of black light poured out, after which he lost consciousness from a powerful attraction. This something sucked him inside. But now it's not about that. A bearded man picks up a black-haired boy from the bunk, and swinging asks how long the kid is going to sleep. After that, he hits the guy under the name Lennox. The boy is in such a pathetic situation, which is only possible because now he has become a weak character, which he himself created. The bearded man calls the youngster a son of a bitch, because it's time to work for a long time, and the black-haired man is still sleeping. Does he really need to be beaten further so that he comes to his senses? After another beating, the supervisor orders the pathetic boy to move and start assembling parts in the workshop. All the other workers mock the loser. It was an amazing sight for their eyes, and they understand that one of the beautiful days the youngster may well be beaten to death. But Li Wang does not agree with the opinion of his comrades, but he is in no hurry to stand up for the boy. At this moment, the supervisor looks into the room again, and orders the idlers to get to work, and they quickly run for their jobs. The black-haired man realizes that his character's name is Lennox, but he still can't believe that he is stuck in this insignificant body. It had been 3 days since he had woken up in this place that looked like some kind of factory. However, he still did not understand much, but surprisingly the black-haired man quickly got used to the routine here. Now he wakes up before sunrise and works until he falls down from fatigue. Before going to bed he is given a bowl of rice porridge, although it looks more like garbage waste. Even if he tries to exchange a couple of phrases with other employees, they don't really answer, partly because they are busy working under the supervision of the boss, but to a large extent they ignore him, because they perceive the guy for a dead man. Partly they are right. With such a weak body, he won't be able to hold out for a couple of days in such a place. At this moment, the boss turns to Lennox. He demands that the worthless bastard move and continue his work. However, the boy began to cough violently, and then the excited supervisor demands that Li Wang remove this dead man as soon as possible, otherwise only his eyes are sore. The boy himself is glad that he put willpower into this character, otherwise he would not have been able to keep his mind in this critical situation. The head finally kicks the boy and demands that he does not get in the way and goes to die somewhere else. Although the black-haired man is aware that such a number of diseases are killing him, but still, despite this, his body has a huge magical potential, and if he manages to awaken this sleeping force, he will clearly be able to escape from this hellish place. But Lennox is not sure if he should do it. Well, at least before that he should get a diagram of this place. It shouldn't be difficult for him, because no one has ever paid attention to him. Soon, going out into the corridor, he notices a slightly open door from which rays of light are streaming, and in it the black-haired one eavesdrops on the conversation of the elders. They complain about the people who were sent here to work, because they are very slow. But this is not so important, because if you beat them, they immediately begin to work normally. The guys are in a hurry to solve another issue. Their bosses are hurrying them a lot with work, and it is not clear what the members of the union are going to do with this product. However, a colleague is interrupted by a friend. He is surprised that he does not know this, because the union sells the shredder being manufactured to a dark magician. The black-haired man is glad, because judging by their conversation, magic still exists in this world, but he still does not know how to use it, and it is not clear what he should do. At the same time, at this moment, one of the guys gets a new vape, and although he does not know the side effects, but they need it to keep the rest of the bastards in check, because the new filter in this enhancing liquid reduces toxicity, and it also contains mana. This is exactly what the poor man was looking for, mana in this unknown world. Suddenly, a force unknown to him enveloped his weakened body. He felt as if his body was pierced by an electric current, and something exploded inside. It was the sixth sense, surpassing all the others, or else the third eye, his alter ego. He learned a new feeling that he could not have suspected until now. This energy has always flowed in this world, but the black-haired man realized it only now. the fundamental force shaping this world and the impulse determining existence. The mana circulating in the air penetrated into his body with every breath. This force is both familiar and alien. Covering himself with a blanket, he ponders his plan. Most likely the amount of mana he received should be enough for him to escape. According to the overheard conversation, it can be understood that the representative of the Union will arrive here in 2 days, which means that the security will be weaker on this day. However, he is not sure that he can escape alone without attracting someone else's attention, but soon he gets a great idea. He uses a small amount of mana on his forehead, and at the same moment it feels like the poor guy has a fever, and if used correctly, it will look like the guy will die soon, and that's when he will be able to stay alone. At night, one of the subordinates knocks on the door to the supervisor. He delivered him a box with a vape and he, in gratitude for the work done, offers the boy to take one for himself, but he refuses such a reward, but the man insists, because Li Wang often helped him out. At the same time, the guy has no choice and he accepts the gift. Also the supervisor remembers one more thing and turns to the guy for help. An elderly man noticed today that the loser Lennox looked like he was going to die soon and asks to get rid of the weak kid, because if a member of the union sees such an employee, then they are fucked. Not knowing what to say, Li Wang accepts the order. The next morning, a signal is heard in the room about the beginning of the working day and everyone slowly began to gather, but their eyes were attracted by the lying Lennox. Looking at him it was clear that the loser's temperature had risen, apparently his time had come. The cowlegs don't even know what to do with this corpse. They are sure that the guy will die by dinner and no one present wants to touch this body. In the depths of his soul, the black-haired man rejoiced about his victory, because his plan was a success. However, at this moment, Li Wang approaches the guys and demands to be let through. At the same time, the topic of conversation changed and now all the employees decided that the senior was going to get rid of the black-haired one. But this does not surprise them, because the kid lying in such a state only harms the team. But such conversations excite Lennox, because this was not part of his plans. A strong hand grabs the guy by the shoulder and turns him, then hands him a vape and explains that it is a stimulant that temporarily increases physical strength. He also says that this is a cheap option, but it should be enough in the way ahead for him. When he gets involved, he begins to feel an unusual vitality. It is quite unusual that a cheap stimulant will have such a strong effect. The kid was interested in this guy Li Wang, and now the escape plan is changing. The factory is an underground loading platform. The guys are loading the goods, but the envoy from the union notices that the quantity of goods does not converge and then he is disappointed in the guys, because they give them significant concessions only because of the trial with the Human Rights Commission, and in return they do not receive any gratitude. The employee bows his head and asks for forgiveness. From now on he promises to try better. The second man at this time was sitting and checking the rest of the documents, but soon his gaze is attracted by a skinny boy. Lennox apologizes and asks for help. He is instructed to deliver the box to the boss's office, but it is closed there, so he hopes that a man with a mustache could help open it. The man is angry, but still agrees to help and takes out his keys, after which he orders the boy to follow him. During the journey, the bald-headed man was very angry, because why exactly now someone asked him to bring this fucking box, and besides, they entrusted this case to such a half-wit. Opening the door, he turned his back to the black-haired man and it was a huge mistake. Lennox uses the discharge and knocks out the Alborzershi man. With difficulty, but he succeeded. Soon he picks up the keys from the floor and notices the presence of car keys on the bunch, but before he goes further, he needs to find more vape. However, it does not seem so easy to him. After examining numerous boxes, the black-haired man finds a gun. But the search does not end there. Soon he stumbles upon the desired thing with all his soul. Sitting on the couch, he starts smoking. The guy knew that this is an amazing thing, but so much? The guy is going to make another thrust, but suddenly he is interrupted by a sound from the corridor. Passing by his office, the boss smelled the smell of vape. He does not understand what kind of impudent person dared to sit quietly here during working hours, and the boss gets angry and enters the room. After opening the door, he notices Mark on the floor. Suddenly a guy jumps out at him and attacks with the help of a skilled discharge, but the warden instinctively managed to dodge. He did not understand who could attack him with magic, and besides, in his own office, after looking closely at the attacker, he recognized Lennox with great surprise. The guy himself was very puzzled, because there is not enough magic for another discharge, and now he is in a desperate situation. Now the boss is going to punish the scoundrel for such impudence. However, Any fists are useless against a large trunk, and at the same second the formidable warden raises his hands and becomes an obedient dog. The black-haired man orders the old man to be silent, but he continues to speak and justify all his cruel actions. However, Lennox knew that he could not trust such a rotten person, but he was not sure that he was ready to kill a living person. Suddenly, someone's voice is heard near the door, calling the boss. At the same time there is no time to think, and the worried old man tells the kid in a quiet voice that he will keep his promise, and pointing to the door explains that it leads to an underground parking lot. There he can go outside. This is his only chance to get out before that guy comes in. But despite this, the black-haired boy was still somnolent. At the same time, the red-haired man, not waiting for the old man's answer, decides to open the door to the office. Because everyone is looking for the boss and looking into it, he is surprised. At the same time, a red car drives up to the gate, and the guard doubles where Mark was going so early. But Mark wasn't driving. Pointing the barrel at the man, the guy demanded that he open the gate for him right away. The dumbfounded security guard unquestioningly fulfills the fugitive's demand, and now the black-haired man can leave. Suddenly, some kind of signal is given on the radio, but it was difficult to hear the words. She began to mess up very badly at the wrong time. At the same time, the red-haired man angrily orders to immediately block all exits. The trembling man reached for the red button, saying that the radio was broken, but raising his head again, he saw his running end. Failing to pray for mercy, the booth is filled with scarlet blood. Lennox was able to overcome feelings of guilt and fear. His characteristics such as stable psyche, self-control and rationality successfully suppresses these unnecessary emotions and allows him to remain sane. Soon another gate appears on his way, but then he decides to take a chance and break through the gate at full speed. He really managed to escape. Composure that increases in an extreme situation is undoubtedly a magician's talent. A night city, and there is a night showdown in it. An unknown guy in a hood is being chased, but there is glass in front of him, and he has to jump off a skyscraper at a run. The guards stop, and one of them assumes that this sick bastard could not survive jumping from such a height, but the commander orders to look for him until the guys find the body. A magical engineering city of the Balkans, a black-haired guy calmly enters civilization, but he is shocked, because the environment is absolutely different from the world of 2.0. Everything around contains a bit of mana. The energy felt on the streets of the city is similar to that at the factory. Apparently, a huge amount of mana has been invested in maintaining this world. Suddenly the kid gets sick. Most likely he overextended himself during the escape. At the same time he thinks about using vape, but he stops his withdrawal, because there is not much left, so you need to take it only in emergency situations. To begin with, Lennox decides to find a place to relax in the city. The boy stays at a hotel. He has to spend an hour of his time on everything he has done. In the past, someone was following him, but in a twofold case he abandoned the car and now he can afford to rest. With these thoughts he falls in the corridor, never reaching the bed. Soon he wakes up from a feeling of intense thirst, going to the mini-bar and takes a can of beer from there. After a sip, he abruptly loses his balance and falls at the bedside table. He is very sick. The black-haired man had a feeling as if his head would fall in half. Looking at his hands, he realized that apparently this is a side effect of vaping. Even so, if he wants to move forward, he has no choice but to rely on such stimulants. At this moment, a terrible sound is heard in the room. It was the rumbling of his stomach. Now he is also hungry. Well, this is not surprising, because the guy has not eaten for more than 12 hours. Soon he opens the first canned food he comes across and starts eating. Meanwhile the phone in front of him starts ringing and Lennox is notified. 2 hours are left before the end of his stay and the young man is asked if he wants to extend the lease. He's going to say yes, but after hearing that these disgusting canned goods make up 10% of the stay, he quickly changed his mind. And besides, if you pay for an overnight stay in a hotel, he will have only a trifle, so he needs more money, and before leaving the room, he decides to put himself in order. After taking a shower, he cuts his hair short. Now someone recognizes him in his throat. In the morning, sitting on the street, he is considering a plan for the following actions. Most likely he will not be able to get money legally, because the black-haired man does not have any documents. He is illegal in this world. Soon find the best way out of this situation, namely, he decides to beat up bandits and steal their money, because this should not create problems for him in the future. After thinking it over, he decides to start looking for his first victim. concentrating mana in his ears, he began listening to hundreds of different conversations, and soon in one of the alleys he found a suitable individual who was discussing the stolen money. Having found the right victim, he decides to follow, but suddenly the kid gets sick. It's all because of his weak body. Then he takes out a stimulator and takes a deep breath. Now he's ready to fight and earn some money. A kid flies into one of the garbage cans. 2 thugs stood over him and demanded money from him, which, according to him, he lost, and the guys have no choice but to sell him in parts for the missing amount. The bandits decide how best to cut the guy in pieces. At the same time, the man in tears begs for help. A loud sound is heard. The coward closes his hands from the robbers and waits for the approaching danger, but for some reason nothing happened to him. Opening his eyes, and the immobilized bandits struck by lightning stood in front of him. It turned out to be easier for the smoking Lennox. Soon the fried guys fall in front of the tearful guy, and he begs the black-haired one for help. However, he does not even notice the victim. Because now the most important thing is money. He found 700,000 yen, which is quite a large sum, and with the help of these funds he will be able to buy medicines and a lot of things. Soon he picks up an object from the ground and asks, "What is it?" The frightened youngster asks not to direct this thing at him and hurries to explain that in the hands of the black-haired man there is now a laser cutter from the company dike, but it was illegally converted and used as a weapon. The guy decides to take such a valuable thing with him, because the more means he has for self-defense, the better, and before he leaves, he turns to the poor guy and saying that he saw too much is going to get rid of him, but the man promises that he will keep silent. But who will believe it in such a rotten world? At the same time, Lennox asks a question of interest to him in exchange for the poor man's life, namely, the black-haired one is interested in a job that does not require documents and preferably that is related to magic. Soon the black-haired man approaches the bar, but it only looks like an ordinary bar. Then the guy tries to hide his real identity just in case and changes his appearance with these thoughts, because in this world he can't trust anyone but himself. Entering the pub, he sees unremarkable visitors, after which he sits down at the bar and orders a mildly alcoholic drink. The bartender fills the glass without hesitation, and after that the black-haired man imposes a dialogue. He asks the bartender if there is a job for a magician here? But Straight didn't answer anything, just pointed his index finger to the side. At the same moment, a woman intervenes in the conversation and declares that working hours have already ended and is interested in what is going on here. The bartender says that the visitor is a magician, but the girl doubts this. The woman's name is Jenny. She says that magicians are quite rare, so their appearance is not so important. After that she is interested in the name of a stranger. The guy realizes that he cannot say his real name, and proclaims himself Van. The black-haired girl guesses that someone told him about this place, that's why he's here. But the pretty girl warns that you can't call yourself a magician if you've learned just a few cheap tricks. She doesn't require you to reveal which magic system he belongs to. However, before hiring, she needs to at least know what a type he has. Wang did not listen to the end and immediately demonstrated his abilities. The room was illuminated with white light. He is the master of lightning. The girl is stunned, because lightning is very rare, and he was also able to summon her easily without a magic circle and a spell. This is unusual. When she sees this, she immediately takes out the contract of assignment, and is eager to finish the contract faster. While the guy was sorting out the papers, the yellow-eyed girl was looking for the first suitable task for the magician. She understands that since he has come all the way to this eatery, he will not be picky about the type of work. But the black-haired man corrects the woman. Everything will suit him except what is related to civilians. Jenny reassures the new employee and says that nothing is needed, because from now on he will be a bounty hunter. The girl holds out a tablet with his first goal and warns that payment will be made immediately, and the quality of the mission will be easy to check. Van will have to kill Taylor Evans. He is a janitor, but 3 days ago, he ran away right after he tried to steal Achilles' security equipment. According to the girl, it was possible to understand that the robbery failed, and the guy is interested in the question, would an insignificant janitor be able to penetrate through such a complex security system of Achilles? At the same time, the girl explains that all the employees were killed, and Taylor was left alone and decided to steal it. After this incident, the Achilles company withdrew from the case and handed it over to her. The guy comes out of the bar and remembers what Jenny said, namely, she promised 3 million yen, which is not too much, but also not enough for catching a rat. The black-haired man, after rereading all the information, saw that there was a blood sample of the target, and he asked for it. She did not feel sorry for this biomaterial. But she assumes that this blood will not be of any use, and she also warns that if a guy decided to catch a rat with the help of a blood magician, then it's not worth it, because they are greedy bastards who demand 5 million for one thing. Taking out a cloth with a bloodstain from the envelope, he throws it to the ground. In this case, he does not need a blood magician, because he can just use basic magic. The basic magic from his memories is all he saw in the world of 2.0, but the list turned out to be quite large, and for this mission he will need the magic of the hunter from the 2.0 version. The guy is enveloped in dark energy, and he uses the skill Bloody Pursuit. An extraordinary force went to the blood, and soon a bloody snake flew out of the cloth flap. She was rapidly crawling through an abandoned building and soon overtook her victim, after which she disappeared. The emaciated man was illuminated by a red light, and he did not understand what it was, but it was too late to worry about it, because the magician had found his target, Taylor Evans. The out-of-breath man was rapidly trying to escape, and he absolutely did not understand how this boy could find this place. Lennox himself is in no hurry. He is a little upset about what is happening, because before coming here, he prepared to resist any attacks, but the guy could not imagine that the man would immediately go on the run. Finding these catch-ups too tedious, he decides to use another ability, the sound wave. The fleeing guy did not have time to hide, as an attack overtakes him and he falls to the ground, and blood began to flow from his ears. Standing over the victim, Lennox repeats that he warned that he should not have run away. At this moment, a bullet arrives at the magician. It's good that he guessed earlier to install a barrier, but it's still not clear where the bullet came from, and he decides to strengthen the barrier. Even if an anti-tank missile arrives at him, he will be able to hold out for some time. In addition, he persistently decides to find Strelka and increase the search area, but even so he does not notice anyone within a radius of 1 kilometer. And this means that the shooter shoots either from a long distance, or uses a disguise so that it is not so easy to determine his location. But what could be the reason to shoot a magician? He has changed his appearance. At this moment, it comes to the guy. Judging by the place where the barrier was broken and the direction of the shot, the shooter was trying to kill not the magician, but Taylor. Apparently the sniper is a cleaner, and thus he tried to shut up the target, but it doesn't matter in principle. One thing is, since he interferes in his affairs, then this is a completely different conversation. With these thoughts, Pran pulls out a revolver from his holster and directs the weapon at the poor guy. He does not intend to let go of the sniper who dared to shoot right in front of him, because he cannot allow the image of the hunter van to turn into a laughingstock. A shot is fired. The black-haired man has shot his target. The more famous Wang is as a cruel and cold-blooded person, the fewer people will want to stand in his way, but he is not going to stop there. The guy suddenly turns around and looks directly at the shooter. Now he has found the impudent one. At the moment when the magician killed Taylor, the sniper's mana flow became restless. The magician was puzzled. Did the guy find him? But still he wasn't sure if it was all an accident. At the same time, the newly minted bounty hunter was deciding what kind of magic should be used for such a distance, and after thinking for a while, he remembers a skill that can be safely held in one hand. This is magic that represents lightning. The sniper continued to observe what was happening, but he did not understand what the mysterious guy was doing and why he had drawn in his magic. But raising his head, he quickly sensed something was wrong. At the same moment, the once weak and helpless Lennox used the call of thunder. A huge electric discharge flew out of the sky, and the only thing the shooter managed to say in the end, "What the fuck?" After that, a huge explosion occurred on the building. The guy notices that this is completely different from what he saw earlier in the game. Now he can safely say that he is a lightning magician. After visiting the explosion site, he still realizes that using magic continuously is still too difficult for him. Considering that there is no trace of the sniper left, the black-haired man decides that the sniper is definitely not an ordinary person, but he does not think that he needs to pursue him, because a warning is enough for the first time, and such a blow should be more than enough to make the lightning magician named Wang known. Soon the kid reappears at the bar and, opening the door, throws a bag on the floor, announcing that it contains the body of Taylor Evans. But this was a rather rash action, because there were ordinary bar patrons in front of him, and the puzzled bartender explains that there is a back door on the other side of the building and asks him to go there. After going to the right place, the man, wearing gloves, opens the bag and from now on asks to use this door whenever it is related to work. The man also admits his guilt. Apparently he is so old that he forgot to say about it. Now the bartender asks to wait a little and begins examining the body. He notices that the cause of death is a gunshot wound to the head, and in addition to the injury itself, there are signs of damage to the ears. There is no change in mana. After that he declares that it is definitely Taylor. Looking at how professionally the elder works, Van notices, did the bartender previously work as a forensic expert? And yes, the man confirms that he was previously engaged in similar work, after which he asks if Van wants to receive a reward right now. The commission is 10%, so he is entitled to 2,700,000 yen, but the old man warns that if the guy wants to get money in other ways, the percentage of commission will be higher. The guy asks again and wants to find out other ways, and the barman says that you can use a bank account in someone else's name, securities, shares. There are different people in this place, and they are looking for different ways to launder money. This is surprising, because the regulation of finance in the Balkans is the same as on the Snake. At this moment, Jenny comes into the room. She is glad to see the magician again and notices that he coped with his task quickly enough. Apparently he really urgently needs money, and despite this it is still surprising. Usually it takes much more time to find a victim than to kill her. She is terribly interested in what kind of talents he has, since he can find and kill so quickly. But the kid is in no hurry to reveal his secrets, and says that he was just lucky. After that, there was an awkward pause between them, but it doesn't matter. The yellow-eyed girl with a smile on her face declares that given his abilities as a magician, they are happy to continue working with him. Hearing this, the smoker wonders if they can throw him some more work, but Jenny announces that that's enough for today, because they need to pass everything to Achilles, and also find out what the cleaners are up to. And also the guy notices another reason, namely it's too early to trust him. He hit the nail on the head. The yellow-eyed one says that they will need time to get to know each other better. It's just like in a love relationship. But the guy doesn't really like this comparison, because it's not the same thing at all. At the same time, he gets up from the table and says that he will come back later. After the guy left, the old man turns to Jenny and says that he found something interesting in the cleaning network. The girl is outraged. Is her grandfather still monitoring this godforsaken network? But it doesn't matter, because the cleaners were able to film Van's work on video. After viewing the amazing footage, the girl was deeply surprised. The following morning, Lennox went to the Balkan City Library. He came here to figure out exactly how magic works in this world. Because of the karma system used, the character's life melts like a candle, so first you need to find a way to increase its duration. At the same time, the black-haired man thinks about time-related magic, because it is possible that the solution to the problem may be in the field of unique magic of the highest rank. Sitting down at the table, the guy began to read various books. Soon he came across a Manu scheme. He had met such concepts before. Examples of mana schemes were indicated on one of the pages. But each magician has his own unique pattern, and archmages of the 8th level and above are able to modify it. In order to find out your scheme, you should place your index finger on your right palm and pour mana. The guy decides to produce what is written in the book, and at the same second a mana scheme is formed in his hand. And considering that the archmage of the 8th level and above can modify it, it is difficult to imagine how powerful the 8th level is. The guy tries to release mana and notices that the scheme changes as it is infused, although he does not know how strong the 8th level is, but he definitely has talent. After sitting in the library for a day, he was puzzled, because this is a little not what he expected, because the idea of general magic that the black-haired man knew earlier had completely evaporated. Magic is divided into two main types: unique and general. Unique is a magic that any magician can study. It is more specialized and powerful, while the general one is not as in-depth and strong, but it has superiority in the form of the possibility of its use regardless of attributes and goals. At least that was the case in the world of 2.0. Now, in this world, general magic is not mentioned at all. This is strange, because Lennox himself somehow used it. No matter how strong the character's talent was, it is impossible to use something that does not exist. This only makes the questions more. The guy didn't learn almost anything new, and also didn't learn anything about time-related magic. At this moment, a woman's voice is heard behind him, who advises him to throw what he has read out of his head if he wants to become a magician. Turning around, the guy saw a blonde girl in front of him. He looked at her puzzledly, and then she said that hope only brings suffering, but such strange words confused the guy even more. Soon the girl explains, she just feels sorry for the boy, because he reads books all day, but this activity will not make him a magician, and at his age it's too late to become one, so she advises him to study something like theoretical engineering of magic better. She also says that if the black-haired man cannot find a mentor, then magic can be studied at school or university, but the poor guy will not be able to do without a base. But even if by some lucky chance he does, then lectures will still not benefit him. Turning away, she sadly informs him that he will not be able to do anything being self-taught, since talent and luck play a big role in this area. The girl comes to her senses and apologizes. She does not know why she said so much to a simple stranger, and before leaving the black-haired company, she says that the library is already closing, and she still needs to put the books in their places, so she politely asks the guy to leave the building. After these words she leaves. However, Lennox stops her with the words, "Did the girl give him advice from her personal experience?" And getting up from the table, he asks her if it's too early to give up if she's still studying, and instead of winding herself up, he advises her to try what she can do. After these words the guy leaves. However, the girl calls out to him and presses a strange card to his chest. She declares that the guy is unimaginably stupid and she did not expect that he would take her words like this. Giving him a golden card, she turns around and goes towards the bookshelves, and finally she asks him to forget what happened, and also promises to show him next time he needs a little magic. Lennox was surprised by such a strange person, but after looking at the business card, he realized that the girl was a professor of the Department of Elemental Magic at Labatenin University, and her name was Eris Richellen. Going outside, it's still hard for him to believe. The girl looks too young for a professor, feels even younger than Lennox himself, but soon he decides to stop thinking about this topic and just walk around the city. Passing through a busy street filled with various stalls, the black-haired man decides to cook something nutritious for this body. At this moment, he hears a voice asking him to pass the test quickly. Turning around, he watches as a policeman asks one of the civilians to take the test, and for this the man should put his hand on the device. After seeing this strange scene, Lennox tries to keep calm, but they are looking for him in the Kremlin. At this moment, the guy is called by a sitting girl and she asks the youngster directly, "Are you involved in something?" She made these conclusions after she saw the black-haired man's reaction to checking the mana scheme, as if he was guilty of something. Looking to the left, Lennox realized that in this world, the mana scheme is like a fingerprint. That's how they check people. At this moment, the guy is distracted by the girl again. She is interested in what the black-haired man forgot here, but his answer was simple: he is here for vegetables. But in fact, he almost forgot about buying them when he saw the guardian of law and order. The guy will notice that there used to be another woman in this place, but the girl announces that she works for her. She is the owner of all this, and she grows vegetables as a hobby. Judging by the manner of speech, the puzzled Lennox could not understand whether the girl was lying or not, but one thing is clear: she is beautiful. Although it does not matter, the girl distracts the guy again and asks if he is going to buy something or not, but he has not yet decided what to buy. At the same time, the girl offers to take him a bow, because he helps with insomnia, and judging by his appearance, he really needs it. Hearing this, the magician immediately buys onions, as well as bell peppers. The girl praises him for a good choice, and while he puts the vegetables in the bag, she notices that his mana is quite unique. With these words, she throws the guy into shock and releases her energy. She is very interested in what a magician like him forgot in such a place. But Lennox denies it, and says he doesn't understand what she's talking about. But the girl continues. She is sure that she would remember such an unusual scheme, and since she sees it for the first time, then the guy must have recently arrived in the Balkans. Lennox was surprised. He could not understand who this person was. She easily realized that he was a magician, and also talks about the mana scheme, as if it were something ordinary. At this moment, the girl holds out a bag with goods and demands 32,000 from the sweating boy for groceries. He gives her the named amount, after which he quickly dumps this creepy girl. He is still amazed by what happened, because she saw the scheme of his mana through the magic barrier, and also for this she needed only her eyes, while the police use a special device. The guy assumes that either she has some kind of abilities, or she is a very powerful magician, but none of this bodes well. But to think that a talented magician was discovered by a complete stranger. After this incident, he spent days in the room studying magic to improve the effectiveness of the ordinary magic that he is already familiar with. But he never managed to find a clue about his unique magic, and also he is not getting better. Due to the fact that Lennox is now addicted to drugs, he needs an official identity card and money to get better drugs. At night, he comes back to the bar, tells Ginny that he needs an identity card and asks if it is possible to get it. Yellow-Eyed says it's possible, but it's expensive, 20 million yen. From such words, the boy's hand trembled, but the girl asks him not to worry about the price, because she was going to offer him a new job anyway, because with his magic there is a large selection of work for a tidy sum. This time, a request came from the company and the guy will get a lot more profit than ordinary bounty hunters. The girl tells the guy that his upcoming goal is a new cosmetics factory called Charlotte. It is located in the 42nd district, and most of the cost for the construction of this institution was financed by the state. The fact is that the cosmetic product that they had to make went through a large number of experiments, and they conducted them on people. Also, Yellow-Eyed says that the factory is known for its anti-aging technologies, which involve the restoration of even dead skin. She has multiple proofs that during development they even peeled off the skin from the face. Apparently they wanted to recreate ideal conditions. From such words, Lennox was thrown into a sweat, but he does not understand why he should do something if Ginny has such a shocking truth in her hands. But the girl says that this is not enough, because the corporation will not give up the factory for anything, and besides, the government provided them with some kind of assistance, so the rumors are not terrible. The customer of this case is the Veritz Company. They have recently started a business in cosmetology, and want to remove competitors, namely, the Charlotte Company. In this case, the company has two conditions. The first is hacking after penetration, Tristo 50 million yen for data on the production of cosmetics from the factory. If the guy is not satisfied with this option, then the second option is the complete destruction of the factory without the possibility of recovery. But then he will be paid only 80 million yen. After hearing this, the guy declares that the first point is impossible, and Ginny completely agrees with him, because Tristo 50 million is not enough to hire someone so experienced for penetration and hacking. The black-haired man, after listening to all the details of this case, accepts the order, and then the yellow-eyed woman, clapping her hands, announced that she would introduce Lennox to his partner with whom he would carry out this mission, but the guy had not even heard of anything like this. The door swings open loudly and Deadpool appears on the threshold. Lennox looked at the guy in the red tights and asked, "What the fuck is this?" At the same time, Ginny hurried to introduce his future comrade in the command, and his name is Dylan Casey. He is a mercenary associated with Antares and is also known for taking inexpensive orders. However, Dylan turns to Ginny. He is not happy with his performance, because it is important to make a first impression, and it is unknown what his colleague will think after hearing the words. But the yellow-eyed one calms the guy in the red suit, assuming that Lennox thought something like about him. Who is this crazy dude in a mask? These words cut Deadpool to the heart. Soon the guys shook hands and introduced themselves to each other, after which the black-haired man is interested in what he needs a partner for, but Ginny declares that one person for such a mission will not be enough. At the same time, Dylan starts a conversation and informs that he can also complete this task alone, but after the yellow-haired woman's frightening look, he quickly changed his mind. After that, Lennox asks the girl to warn for earlier about working with a partner. Soon he clarifies how they will divide the money. Deadpool assumes that for 3, but Yellow-Eyed retreats from her share, because she made a mistake. While the guy in the red suit was kissing the girl, Lennox was thinking about a similar action on her part. He has two assumptions: either the girl has found a good way to make amends in this way, or she is just trying to check how much she can cross the line working with him. But still, if she throws something else like that, the guy obviously won't survive. At this moment, Ginny has already managed to nail the annoying bug and invites the guys to look at the drawings of the factory. District 42, unlike the underdeveloped 50s, the 40s have all the necessary infrastructure. Even compared to areas of higher ranks, this should be enough. The girl warned the guys that the factory is located in the 42nd district, which is in good condition, but it's a little empty. Soon Deadpool starts a dialogue. He notices that Ginny appreciates the black-haired man well, because she is not one of those women who so easily give up money. In a normal situation she would take a percentage, but now everything is different. Apparently she is trying to maintain a good relationship with him, because the yellow-eyed one never did that for Dylan. Lennox is a little surprised, because the guy clearly overheard their conversation in the bar and decides that this strange guy in front of him hides his true identity behind chaotic behavior. At this moment, Lennox's thoughts are interrupted. The guy in the suit, blushing a little, he offers the magician his business card and says that he does not have to work alone. But the black-haired man did not understand this gesture and asked directly, "Is Deadpool trying to recruit him?" However, the motives of the guy in the suit were simple. He sees nothing wrong with making friends with a powerful magician, because the more familiar magicians, the better. And he also promises benefits, despite the fact that his office is a bit heavy. But they have a lot of guys who professionally know how to use their bodies just like Dylan. After his gorgeous speech, he asks not to tell Jenny about it. Lennox smiled and walked past. He likes the eloquence of his colleague, but he will still need to evaluate how good he is in addition to the dialogue. The Charlotte Company. The guys got close to her and assessed the degree of security of the object. However, after carefully looking around, the black-haired man does not notice worthy rivals there. On the contrary, in his opinion, the security is too negligent. But Deadpool is not surprised, because you need to be crazy to contact such a large factory. He would not even look in their direction if not for such a large order. Dylan also notes that by the sign on his chest, you can understand that those guards come from the 888, which means that they are all former criminals, which is why their security company is the lowest among all. But this is even better, because a man will not be so ashamed, after accidentally killing one or two of them, after hearing the black-haired man goes to work. But Dylan stops him and advises him to cover his face, arguing that it is not worth revealing his identity, even if there is poor security at the facility. After saying the words he hands the black-haired man a fashionable mask. But Lennox turns around and continues to go to the co-corporation. At the same time Dylan asks the guy to stop, because such rash actions can be too dangerous, and he offers the guy his best disguise. But Lennox tries to calm down his companion, assuring him that everything will be fine. But these words do not correct the situation, and Deadpool worries that he may be tracked down in the future because of a careless comrade. At the same time, Lennox pulls a black cloth over the bridge of his nose in order to somehow calm the man, and, after the conflict was resolved, the fashionable guys moved on a mission. Their strategy on this order is simple. The plan is that while Dylan enters the building through the back door and distracts those present, the black-haired man enters through the warehouse and blows up the factory. The end. Although it sounds easy, but in this mission there is a huge variable that can cause problems, and this variable is Deadpool. At that moment, the guy in the red leotard jerked and started his part of the plan. He instantly grabbed one of their guards and put his head on the ground. This speed impressed the magician, but the performance did not end there. The second employee did not even understand what had happened, and before he could turn around, he was knocked out after his friend. After that, a joyful Dylan waved to his silent friend and shouted -2. After that, one little thing attracts his attention behind the truck. The hidden guard tried to report on the radio about a suspicious guy in a red mask, but Deadpool listened carefully and was in no hurry to interrupt the poor guy. After that, a desperate cry was heard behind the van. The black-haired man realized that he was worried about this professional in vain, but his approach is really creepy. But Jenny definitely knows how to understand people. After that, the guy takes off his mask and makes a delicious meal. Now it's his turn to show who the father is here. The black-haired man goes to the locked door at the back entrance, but with the help of a spare item, he opens the steel gate without any problems. Opening the door, he meets a terrified guard with a gun in his hands, and he demands that the guy in the mask raise his hands up. But after meeting an absolutely ordinary guard, Lennox decides not to bother and uses the ability Natural Sleep. At the same moment the man loses consciousness and falls to the floor. However, this sequence of events does not suit the black-haired man, because civilians should not suffer during the explosion of the factory. At the same time he uses another skill, a puppet. And taking the elderly man under control, he takes him out of the building, after which he himself goes into the depths of the object. Soon the guy reached the stairs and decided to go down without thinking for a long time, when suddenly he heard numerous screams, which means that Dylan is doing a great job of attracting attention. Therefore, Lennox decides that the mission should go smoothly until the very end. At this time, desperate screams of the guards were heard on the street. They tried to shoot at the criminal, but everything was in vain. Deadpool dealt with all the workers, and surprisingly there were much fewer of them than he imagined. Soon he opens a dusty hangar and gets inside, but no one is watching there, and then he wonders if everyone else has gone after the magician. It was these thoughts that visited his head, when suddenly an unusual laser appeared on his leg, and then on his head, and everywhere else. However, this surprise only excited the guy in the mask more. The guards holding the weapon warned the intruder that if he did not have time to lie down on the floor within 5 seconds, they would start firing to kill. But he was not going to do that, because now he would not have to run after each of them separately. And making a dash, a massacre began in the building. Hundreds of bullets were flying at the guy in the red suit, but it was useless against absolute strength. Meanwhile, the black-haired man sneaks into the depths of the building and gets to the valve at the factory. In such large factories there is always a gas temperature control system. After a bit of twisting, he decides that such an amount should be enough to blow up everything here. Soon after that the room began to fill with gas. Now all he has to do is start a spark. It's not difficult to ignite the flame. He just needs to use elementary ignition magic and set a spell so that it activates on its own as soon as he leaves with Dylan. Before leaving the factory, he thinks that he should thank the girl from the vegetable shop, because it was after their meeting that he started working on using common magic, and thanks to this he learned that simple magic can be combined. After these thoughts he uses a timer skill and is going to leave the room, but his attention is attracted a strange sound. At this time, a huge dent formed on the top of the iron gate, and Deadpool, holding the lifeless body, did not understand what was the matter. Suddenly, the gate rushed past the man and took the poor guard with it. At that moment, a stone crocodile appeared on the threshold and said, "Are you completely fucked up here?" The black-haired man opens the door and soon, hiding around the corner, watches the situation. He can't understand what the fuck is going on here, because Lennox saw a talking motherfucking crocodile. It turns out Deadpool is an old friend of this reptiloid, and they calmly greet each other, and the green one asks how Andreas is chewing there. Earlier, Crocodile had doubts when Andreas said he wanted to leave alone and start a business, but it looks like he had an ace up his sleeve. In response to this, Dylan says that his boss is still an enthusiast. Hearing this, the green laughed, but this does not change the situation, and the crocodile says that there is nothing to be done. At the same time, Deadpool is interested in how much his old friend was paid, and he announces 10 billion. A cold sweat ran down the black-haired man's face from such a sum, and even the guy in the red leotard was depressed after hearing this insane figure. The reptiloid is ready to kill his old friend painlessly for the sake of Andreas, but Deadpool declares that it is not so easy to give up and asks the crocodile to pass the bag lying next to him. And he calmly throws this bag of toys to Dylan, but the guy declares that he will regret calling this weapon a toy, because now it will hurt him very much. Literally a minute later, the red one flies off into the nearest wall, and the crocodile laughs with Deadpool, because he hasn't changed a bit and remains the same fool. But Dylan declares that it's just the handle that doesn't fit well in his hand today. And now he's going to fight seriously. The next second, the guy was thrown into another wall, and over and over and over again. Lennox was shocked by what was happening and did not understand if his partner was going to fight recklessly. After all, there are 2 minutes and 17 seconds left before the ignition is activated. The black-haired man understands that they clearly do not have time. Previously Dylan was running around like crazy, but now, apparently, he does not even think about running away, which means that the crocodile is on a completely different level. Therefore, the magician decides to do everything in his power, and then safely leave this place. A conversation begins again between old colleagues. The monster criticizes the red man, because he used to be better, but now from the moment they met, he did not even show a thirst for blood. But Dylan tries to ignore these provocations and notices that his green friend is getting stronger over the years and taking out his hidden blades. He asks if the crocodile feels his thirst for blood. At this moment, he rushes at the talking reptile and their bloodthirsty glances meet, but the attack was blocked and Deadpool jumps aside, but after that he disappears, and only a residual mirage remains in his place. He literally teleported behind the green and delivered a fatal blow, but the attack was blocked by the tail. At the same time, the red-headed man does not stop striking the next blow, but he is unsuccessful. Dylan realizes that his speed is not enough, and he needs to get even faster. With these thoughts, he continues to strike from all sides, but this was not enough to cause significant damage to this monster, and choosing a suitable moment, the green one strikes back, but without reaching the goal, an electric discharge appears under him, the shackles of lightning. The crocodile is struck by lightning, and at the same time Dylan did not understand what was happening and turned around to see where this thing came from. That's when he saw his masked partner, and since he got such a great chance, he decides to take it and defeat this old bastard in front of him. The crocodile becomes enraged and tries to get out of this electric trap, but in vain. He forgot about Deadpool. The red guy in tights ascended into the air and was already ready to make a fatal blow, when suddenly the tail of the reptiloid gently throws the crazy weirdo, and after that the green grabs Dylan by the throat. The monster wonders why his friend didn't tell him that he didn't come alone. However, even with a magician, simple tricks will not be enough to win. Soon the monster decides to deal with Deadpool first, then to play with the magician. Immediately after these words, he says goodbye to Dylan and strikes him an accurate blow to the head. From such a terrible blow, the man flies into the wall and punches it, then flies a few more meters down the street. Now the crocodile decides to find a magician, but Lennox has already changed his position. The black-haired one is surprised that this lightning discharge is usually enough to melt metal, and this creature did not care at all. Soon he reaches the place where Dylan was supposed to be lying and reaches his injured friend. Lennox asks his partner if he is alive. However, Dylan confuses the black-haired man with his beloved mom, so Lennox realizes that the dumbass is still alive. But there is a problem: he does not know how to carry it better, and after a short thought, he decides to impose a buff of strength and speed on himself. Because of his dependence on mana, he avoided concentrating it in his body, but now is not the time to worry about it. He needs to get away from the factory as soon as possible, because it will take off soon. At this time, an angry crocodile wanders around the factory and is looking for his victim, but he still can't figure out where the magician is hiding, when suddenly he was disturbed by instinct. He smelled something wrong. At this time, in the basement of the building, the timer reached the end and the fire skill was activated and a powerful explosion occurred in the building. The guys did not have time to escape to a sufficient distance, but in order to somehow reduce the force of the blow, the magician erected a barrier. At this time, Dylan, lying on the asphalt, continued to whine. He had a feeling as if all his bones were broken. At the same time, a tired Lennox asks the boy if he can walk on his own. Then he takes the device out of his jacket and makes the most powerful thrust. Deadpool sees this and wonders if this is really a stimulant that increases physical strength. He has heard that such things have strong side effects, but for some reason the magician calmly uses it without any problems. After another pull, the black-haired man declares that everything seems to have been successful. He thought it would be a battle between people and monsters, but surprisingly Dylan defended this fight very worthily on his own. The guy in the red suit is embarrassed and takes it as a compliment. After that, he pulls the black-haired man away from the vape and says that they need to get out of here immediately. But Lennox does not understand the reason for the concern and asks Dylan if he really thinks that that creepy crocodile is alive. However, the man does not think, he is sure of it. After that, Deadpool asks the guy if he really does not know that monster. Having not heard the answer, Red decides to explain to Lennox that their opponent was Croconacilius from Pandemonium. At this moment, an angry crocodile climbs out from under the rubble in a burning factory, and now he is serious about killing these ants. In the past, this monster, according to Dylan, was a military mercenary, and after his resignation, he became the head of Pandemonium. Not only is Pandemonium a notorious global organization where only extremely dangerous criminals are invited, so he also became its leader without any problems. But the black-haired man can hardly believe in such a thing. At this moment, a green monster calmly emerges from the ashes of fire and hell. Seeing such shit, the guys decide to fuck off quickly, but the monster is not going to let them go so easily and throws the guys away with just one blow of his hand. Lennox is surprised, even though in this world it is possible to strengthen your characteristics with magic, but this already goes beyond the limits of the universe. Crocodile is also surprised, because he did not expect that such a weasel would turn out to be a magician. Besides, he is still too young for this profession. The black-haired man understands that now he will not be able to escape with Dylan, and in general, he had a feeling that the man died, but Deadpool cleared his throat, thereby stating that he was still completely healthy. The black-haired man realizes that if he has to fight this monster, then he should deal with it as soon as possible, because the longer it lasts, the less his chances of winning. A crocodile comes close to the guy and is interested in the fact that the black-haired man did not use this nasty lightning magic by chance. Then he furiously asks if the guy was taught manners, because you can't shoot in the legs? But Lennox calmly replies that such a rule applies only to people, and talking crocodiles do not count. Hearing such bold words, Zeleny laughed and declared that Dylan really brought a pretty brave brat with him, and he would even have spared him if he hadn't blown up the factory. But the crocodile wants to work off the money received, so he should kill the boy. He promises that it will be useless. But Lennox was not satisfied with this outcome, and he uses the ability Gravitational Binding. Dark shadows appeared from the ground and enveloped the ill-mannered reptilian, after which they gradually became heavier. The guy promises that it will be difficult to get out of such a spell. The monster appreciated such a clever trick, but he decides to check whether it will really be difficult to get out or not. At the same second he raises his hand and the chain breaks. Lennox was shocked by this, but decides not to stop there and calls for more dark fetters. However, the crocodile continues to laugh. He asks the magician, does he really think that a couple of such strings will withstand all his power? At the same time, he decides to overcome this ability, but a moment later another chain binds the chatty mouth of the monster. Now the black-haired man was glad, because silence finally reigned, but he himself understands perfectly well that this will not be enough. At the same time, he decides to spend all the remaining mana and starts collecting it in his right hand. Seeing this, the crocodile in a rage pulls his mouth from the fetters and begins to shout furiously at the impudent brat. With a single roar, he dispels the rest of the chains and now he's really angry. However, the black-haired one apologizes to the green-headed one and declares that he does not intend to stand quietly in front of the fucking crocodile. In a situation where his life is on the line, he decides not to conserve energy. A terrifying force is gathering around the guy, but the monster does not understand what kind of trick the snotty magician is going to use again.